Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. George Lundberg, Editor-at-Large for MedPage Today, and we are having a conversation today with Dr. Blair Holladay, who is the EVP of the American Society for Clinical Pathology, and we're at that annual meeting in Las Vegas. Thank you so much for being with us today, Dr. Holladay. We appreciate it.
Thank you, George. It's good to see you.
Everywhere I look in medicine, there's conflict, there are turf battles, there are issues of this doctor wants to do this and this doctor wants to do that, and this doctor doesn't want this non-doctor messing with his or her turf. If you're talking about ophthalmology or anesthesiology or all that kind of stuff. And yet the field that you and I are in, which is pathology and laboratory medicine, has large numbers of people with all kinds of different backgrounds. And it seems to me like mostly they get along pretty well in a cooperative way. Is that generally right, or am I missing something?
Well, isn't it up to pathology and lab medicine to set the standards for medicine, George?
Well, we've always tried to do that. And if we can do that in terms of cooperation instead of conflict, that would be great.
Well, I think it's a good point. You know, as they say, a house divided doesn't allow for the future to be protected. And this medicine community that we're involved in today is moving so rapidly. There's so many changes. And I think pathology and laboratory medicine probably is the home, or could be the diagnostic home for all of the influential decisions in medicine. So, you know, when we look at ourselves and even the diversity of our own profession, for instance, in pathology and laboratory medicine, there's 27 different kinds of societies.
27 society,
yes.
All representing different constituencies.
Right, different factions of the laboratory. ASCP has always looked at itself as sort of the big tent to allow for inclusivity of all of those different factions you're talking about. And you're absolutely right. We don't see ourselves as a divided group of individuals. We see ourselves as working symbiotically together in order to effectuate the kinds of changes that are best for all parts of the profession. So let me give you an example. Within the laboratory professional community, you know, you have a whole section of individuals who work. The preponderance of workers are non-physicians, non-MDs, and non-PhDs. These are individuals who are in the throes of the day-to-day work of the activities of the laboratory in histology and cytology and phlebotomy and microbiology, hematology, blood banking, chemistry, you name it. All these folks are working, you know, independently, but the irony is that they're all now beginning to work much more in a homogeneous fashion because each of them requires the other in order to make sure that the patient gets the better diagnosis. So what we're seeing today is that what we are doing within the laboratory field is being recognized outside of pathology. Here's a good example. The American Society for Hematology is a very prestigious organization in hematopathology. And you would think that it would be predominantly a group of hematologists or hematopathologists who are doing the kinds of work around leukemias, lymphomas, and plasma cell dyscrasias. But in fact, it's clinicians and hematopathologists and hematologists, as well as PhDs and scientific individuals who are working in order to do the kinds of evidence-based research, do the kinds of quality control, patient-centered types of diagnostic techniques where they can learn together. And who do you think is pushing that?
I don't
know. Laboratory.
Okay, well that makes good sense
Absolutely.
To me in many ways, because the laboratory is the centrality of the diagnostic process while these other people are doing all kinds of other things. In the ASCP itself, how many different categories of members are there?
Well, there's probably, there's really three major categories of members. Your physicians and pathologists, your laboratory professionals, which are your non-MDs, baccalaureate and non-baccalaureate prepared individuals, and then your scientist category, your PhDs who predominantly do research but also do clinical directorships and work in the laboratory to help more or less orchestrate the entire portfolio of activities.
Are there educational curricula and programs that lead to certification in each of these areas?
Yes, the Board of Certification, which is the oldest board of certification for laboratory medicine in the country. I think it started in 1926, 1928. the founding fathers of the ASCP said, guess what? We can't do this alone. We need to be able to spool up credentialing for the profession in order to protect the patient. So it started many, many years ago, over 80 years ago, and today we've certified over 500,000 individual practitioners, from, again, histopathology or histotechnologists to cytotechnologists to phlebotomists to medical laboratory technologists, all doing different things, but all working together.
Well, let's bring it then from that long history, which is an important one, to today. Roughly how many members of all groups in aggregate are there in the ASCP? What's your total membership? Well,
our total membership today is somewhere, it's over 100,000 people. Some are probably a little greater or lesser than that, depending upon if you include all the international activity or international members that we have, because the ASCP is now in 70 different countries, and as a relationship of that credentialing process as well as the outreach for our educational process, it's really allowed a large blanket of activities to be filtered into the international stage. And we're very proud of the fact that we're bringing, as a nonprofit society, we're bringing education to the world. This is not trying to imperialize the world with the U.S. domain or the Mayo brand of education, which we feel ASCP is, but be able to help particularly those countries across the world who have a substandard and unfortunately a deficit in the standard of care, and we can help them with their educational credentialing process. So if you add them all together, George, you're over 100,000 some odd people.
Okay, well that's a significant responsibility. Congratulations on having your role in that, and thank you for being with us this morning.
Oh, it's our pleasure.
We've been talking with Dr. Blair Holladay, who is the EVP of the American Society for Clinical Pathology, and we've been emphasizing cooperation among professionals to make the diagnostic process as scientific and appropriate and inexpensive, shall we say, as possible, rather than having turf battles or conflicts, which so much of medicine seems to be caught up with. So thank you very much for being with us.
Well, we appreciate that. We like to think of it as the right test for the right patient at the right time at the right cost.
I like that.
Okay.
Thank you very much
George,
for being with us today.
Absolutely.
I'm Dr. George Lundberg, signing off for MedPage Today.